I want to try and put together energy transition and energy security.
Good.
And I think that this COP will be dominated by discussions over energy security. It is not possible to have to host a COP and to have an event that is similar to COP26, because the war in Ukraine happened, and this is bringing a major geopolitical shift, because right now we have Europe that is discussing about and taking action for its own energy security, African countries that are taking action for their food security, and countries that are trying to benefit from the embargoes by buying cheaper oil from Russia that cannot be sold to many other international markets. And we see that security, energy security, is able to move governments and corporations far more quickly than energy transition, okay? So I can see that in Italy, as soon as the risk of remaining without gas became evident, okay, governments and corporations, they enacted measures that are going to likely cost billions, okay, with a rapidity, okay, that we have never seen when we talk about climate change. And these discussions will absolutely be present in COP27. And there is one leverage that I think that should be used by the negotiators in general, and then African negotiators in particular. So that renewable energies, by definition, they increase energy security. Because, of course, the solar potential that we have in Egypt is not the same that we have in Italy or even in Northern Europe, but the deployment of renewable energies is a way of reducing the dependency on fossil fuel and therefore on other countries. Of course, we don't need to do it just for the sake of security. We do it also for the sake of the environment, but this is a win-win situation. So renewables and so transition and energy efficiency. The other, I think that it is not just a matter of African governments to demand more contributions for the just transition, okay, and contributions should be given absolutely not just for more renewables in Africa, but also for energy access, which for Africa is the real priority. But also a clear negotiating position for Africa should be that energy transition should not in any way slow down the economic growth, because in the end, both mitigation and adaptation in Africa, they depend on the fact that African governments and African countries and African corporations can invest money. And in order for them to invest money, there is the need to accelerate the economic growth. Therefore, and this is the second way in which you can discuss transition and security, we know that apart from asking for help, financial help to the developed world, according to the common but differentiated responsibilities, I think that the developed world should also accelerate the phase out of fossil fuels. Because the more the developed world accelerates the phase out of fossil fuels, the higher their own level of energy security will be, but the higher the budget, the carbon budget for developing economies will be. So another common position should be first in, first out oil and gas fields in developed world were the first to be put on stream. They should be the first to be closed. Because right now, what you see in the developed world is the approach. It's a different approach. The last in, the first out. So Africa cannot develop its own gas because we already have too much gas. So let's make it vice versa, not last in, first out, but first in, first out, so that the carbon budget, okay, that you leave because you are speeding up your transition can be used by African governments to take advantage of their own resources and speed up, accelerate their economic growth to then adapt and mitigate. But the strategy at the COP, it has absolutely to take into account both transition and security and stress the importance of renewable energies for security. But the other security is the possibility for African countries and developing countries to have enough money to invest and to tackle all the problems that they have, including food security, which is as important as energy security.
Thank you very much. I think I can just sum up all the interesting information analysis that you have introduced, that again, we are strengthening very much the equation between sustainable development and the environment and vice versa. I think this is the equation that we are trying to attain in order to eventually provide a decent life and to save the planet from the disastrous repercussions. Now, in fact, I'll be interested to have later on, a few questions, but let me come to the last part of it, which is the Mediterranean hub, energy hub. I think this is
I have one slide with a map that I want to show while we discuss about the Mediterranean hub, if it is possible.
How many minutes?
Oh no, it's while we discuss, we just have a map that might help us in discussing about the hub.
Shoot.
Okay, so this one is the Mediterranean hub that we were talking about, that put together transition and security. And basically, what I'm showing here is that up to February, 450 million cubic meters per day were flowing from Russia to Europe, and almost 3 to 4 million barrels of oil per day. And now Europe is saying that they don't want to purchase gas and oil anymore from Russia, and that means that that gas and that oil can only come from the Mediterranean, from other countries through the Mediterranean. And it doesn't need to be in the form of gas or oil, because it could be hydrogen, it could be electricity, it could be, of course, oil and gas, and it could be bioenergies. The thing is that as we change the pattern of global energy trade, when we talk about the Mediterranean, we are not talking anymore about a, let's say, a receiving region or a region just trade energy among itself, but a hub, because most of the energy that we have to displace from Russia and find new players will come from far away. And it is not just a transition or a security challenge, but I would say it's also a logistic challenge. And thinking about Egypt. So if we want to, and I think that for many reasons, because of security issues, the new means of transportation for natural gas will be LNG. So all countries, given the experience that we are having right now in Europe, will say, well, it is better to rely on LNG rather than gas pipelines. So most of that will come from Africa or from the Middle East, and in particular from Qatar. So the amount of gas that we would like to bring from the Arabian Peninsula into Europe cannot transit through Suez unless Suez increases in size. So for instance, that is a logistical problem, okay? And many more problems are there in terms of logistics because the amount of energy that was coming from Russia, now it has to come through the Mediterranean, and the Mediterranean has to be up to that challenge in terms of assets, infrastructures, coordination. And I think that when we talk about a hub, we really need to understand the implications of being a hub. And I'm not sure that we are there yet when we talk about hub and logistics.
Thank you very much. Well.